I originally filmed this video in response to a film competition. The prompt posed the question, who inspires you to travel? In the past 2 years, I've traveled to 8 different countries on 5 different continents, all while juggling a full-time job. Needless to say, I'm slightly obsessed with travel. Unfortunately, life happened and I missed the deadline for this contest. But in the process of filming this video, I realized that there's an important story I need to tell. So, who inspires me to travel? The person who immediately comes to mind is my mom. There's no other person in the world who has instilled in me the desire to see new places and get out of my comfort zone quite like my mom. Unfortunately, my mom hasn't left the country in over 7 years. She works 6 days a week, never takes any vacation, and rarely has a spare moment to herself. This begs the question, what about your mom inspires you to travel? Well, her story starts in 1954 in a small village in northern Vietnam. This is the only photo taken of her as a child. The Vietnam War broke out a year after she was born, and shortly after, she and her family fled to a town in southern Vietnam called Sông Mao. My mom says that in some sense, she feels like she's been running her entire life.
Má細個時候有咩希望啊？
希望？有好多希望。希望冇再打仗。
打仗點樣啊？
The Vietnam War, which ended 40 years ago in 1975, resulted in the death of nearly 3.8 million Vietnamese and over 58,000 US soldiers. Like most wars, it was catastrophic, bloody, and felt completely senseless to civilians on the ground.
因為媽細個嘅時候，好多朋友冇爸爸，爸爸打仗死咗，又同埋好多親戚個仔或者丈夫都會打仗死咗，就係希望世界冇再打仗。
南方失咗係打仗失咗，生活點樣？
非常之艱難，非常之痛苦。咩自由都失晒，同埋我係一個少數人嘅艱難係。係全盤人嘅艱難。
The end of the war was not the end of strife. The newly installed communist government from the north executed grave human rights violations, along with economic policies that caused millions to plummet into extreme poverty. This prompted a mass exodus of South Vietnamese. Among them were my parents and older sister.
一解放落嚟又開始想離開越南啦，但係好多次都離唔開。睇邊度有線人哋開啊，咁樣又咁樣走啦。
係走用線走。
係用線走，媽好多朋友都係線嗰度走。去泰國啦，有啲就去馬來西亞，有啲就去菲律賓咁樣。周圍鄰近嗰啲國家，好多人好成功，有好多人死喺個海上。
媽有識邊個死喺個海上？
好多，有啲親戚嘅有，啲街坊嘅有，甚至有啲係朋友啲親戚嘅有。
Due to the harrowing nature of the journey, my dad fled the country first, hoping to eventually be able to send for my mom and older sister Yi. However, 5 months after he left, and against his wishes, my mom, along with my sister, who was only 4 years old at the time, embarked on the perilous journey to Hong Kong. They joined the ranks of 800,000 Vietnamese refugees who left the country by boat, also known as boat people. Boat people were often met with storms, disease, starvation, and even pirates.
一年嘅時候，91年媽搭車去北方啊，喺北方搭車過中國啊，中國咁啊坐一張好細嗰啲木線咁啊，跟埋認識嗰啲人咁啊，喺中國嘅時候買張啲木線仔細細咁啊，走過香港。冇邊個揸線嘅，就係俾嗰張木線仔咁樣，我哋20幾個人咁啊，有幾個青年啦，咁啊揸住個線冇係嗰啲揸太嘅線嚟嘅，係一個後邊安住一個機仔啊，咁樣啊，係咁樣出海啦，好非常之危險。嗰日出海啊，啱啱3號風球。個風一直吹入香港嗰度，入到一個島啊冇人住嘅一個島，有一個回收站，好似一個嗰啲廠係回收嘅，咁啊係幫我哋打電話出去叫嗰啲香港警察入嚟，咁啊載晒我哋出去城市，咁啊戰去呢個島係叫大亞洲島啦。
I was actually born in the refugee camp on that tiny island off of Hong Kong, and 2 years later, my little sister Lily was born. There, my family and I lived for 3 years, waiting for Hong Kong and US officials to determine whether we would be accepted to the United States or return to the country that my parents and sisters so desperately fled.
人住喺嗰度，一啲希望都冇啊，同埋每日都係好似一日3餐都有得飽，但係你每日食完都係坐住嗰度，覺得嗰個希望即係唔知喺邊度咁樣咯。咁啊之後喺大亞洲島度差唔多住咗3年幾啊，咁啊出自由大約3個月咁樣啊嚟美國。哇！好開心啊，因為哇真係好自由啊，因為好似你俾一條繩綁住，突然間嗰條繩拆開咗啊，真係好開心，好開心。成個人都哇充滿晒希望。
第一年喺美國點樣咧？
第一年嚟到美國喺加州啦，喺希沃啦。做好少錢，1個月只係夠食、夠屋租、夠嘢，但係非常非常之開心啊！因為話好自由，好開心啦！喺加州4年係非常之開心啦，每日都可以同埋自己啲細路哥喺一齊啊！有好多時候個命運都好似係安排咗。
After all that my mom and family have gone through, I feel an obligation to live a life that does justice to their sacrifice and hardship. I feel compelled to constantly push myself to live outside of my comfort zone, like my parents did, in order to find a greater life for not only themselves but also for their children. Traveling has always allowed me to challenge myself in that way. So this was a pretty personal video, and for a while I was reluctant to share it, but this is really important to me for a number of reasons. Firstly, I think it's so important to talk to the people in your life, to get to know them. I realized while I was filming this video that there were a lot of things about my mom that I really just never knew, and there were a lot of questions that I've always had but never bothered to ask. And this was a great exercise for me to actively seek answers to these questions and try to get to know my family and the people around me better. My family's struggle is actually everyone's struggle. America was built by refugees. In the past, it was European refugees escaping war, famine, and poverty. But there are refugee crises happening now, as there always have been. I hope this video can help open people's hearts to the fact that one group's struggle, whether Syrian, Rohingya, or otherwise, is everyone's struggle.